Hello everyone, take one. This is my first attempt at using my high definition camera of the laptop that I use normally. This is also my first nighttime video, and this is really a first for a lot of things. And today we will be talking about a particular topic, which is the Ronin Katana and the model O-Musashi. I will show you mine. I have it right here. Um, I did not receive it for free. I paid for it with my own money. I have no relation with Ronin Katana. Um, and I can't remember if it was a dent and scratch or not. At this time, I really don't remember. But even if it was a dent and scratch, it came to me in a very nice uh, package. Uh, from Texas. They have a warehouse here in the US. Um, and this is one of the very few O-Katana they have. And O-Katana means it's a long katana with the edge over 30 something inches. Usually katana are at least now around 28 inches in the blade length. And you could call katana with over 31 or so inches in length as O-Katana. And historically, it was kind of a bit different depending on the time frame. Um, why I especially wanted to have the sword is that I heard good things about the balance of their long katana blades, and also I am a huge fan of Musashi. I have developed a Musashi katana with Hanban Forge, which is one of my heirlooms. It's absolutely beautiful. I will show it to you sometime. Um, and what really makes it a Musashi sword, at least for a consumer, is the tsuba, the hand guard. It has that very famous shape that is just sometimes called Musashi shape, but actually he may or may have not used it in his real life. We just know that he came up with this design and he was inspired by double gourds or double gourd, a vegetable. So there are lots of misconceptions about what it represents and where it came from. So here you go. I will save you some searchings online. It looks a little bit oily in Atsuka, just that because I have applied some gun oil to the Samegawa. It's the white panels of race skin that are on each side of the tsuka or the handle. Um, I usually use a bit of oil, whether it's gun oil or micro wax mixture with some kind of oil, um, because well, the leather itself it is a bit fragile, like all leather is really. It could be too dry, and for better elasticity and longer life, you want to oil your leather products, like your shoes, or if you have a leather jacket, you might want to oil it sometime. And the excess oil is showing in the ito. Ito is the silk wrapping of the tsuka. I'm not sure if it's real silk. I've seen and felt better silks before. This may be synthetic, maybe not. It doesn't really matter. It still feels decent. It feels decent, and I've seen worse. Um, it has a brass or bronze um, minuki, little ornament on each side. That helps with the grip and the positioning of your hands in martial arts of Japan and Ninjutsu, Iaido, and so forth. The top is Kashira. It's basically the end cap that holds two wooden cores and two panels of Samegawa. I might be mispronouncing Samegawa, my apologies, together, and the silk cord holds it together as well. Um, so the Kashira was fine, but after I practiced Iaido with it, Iaido is basically non-contact practice of various moves or kata with katana. And of course, if you use the sword a lot, you put strain on Zuka. So the kasha was coming off. Super glue fixed it. Uh, a person can rewrap the Tsuka if they really want to, if they have the expertise and knowledge and the skill. They could pay somebody to do that for them, such as the Cottontail's custom, but it would probably cost me twice or three times the price of the sword itself. So for with budget swords, I just basically fix them kind of in a rough way, such as just using super glue on the kashira, and it actually helps to hold the two pieces together, two wooden core pieces together. The knot was decent and strong for quite some time. As soon as I started feeling it developing a bit of a give, I applied the textile glue, and around then I have glued on the kashira with super glue. So now the knot is very hard. The kashira is not going anywhere, and I can practice with the sword further without any troubles. Um, One of the things I like about Tsuka, even though if you know what you're talking about, if you have some experience with katana, you can tell that it's made with panels of semigawa. It's not a full wrap around the handle. Traditionally, katana have the full semigawa wrap or some kind of leather wrap around the cores, the wooden cores. Helps to keep the whole structure stronger together. These days, things are a little bit different. People don't use katana in the same way people used to at the end of Sengoku Jidai on the battlefield. So if the structural integrity of the tsuka is a little bit less than it could have been, it's not such a big deal, especially if you just practice tamishigiri or other forms of cutting with the sword. And the fact that it has panels versus a full wrap is not the most major difference in how strong the tsuku is. It's the wrapping of the silk is more important. Uh, the kashira, the way it holds things together. The fuji ring, it's the ring of probably mild steel, maybe iron, right after the tsuba. It also holds the handle together. Um, I used gun oil because the cheap brown gun oil adds a bit of a color to the semigawa. It's hard to see with this camera view right now at night, but it's just a little bit more yellow than white, and it looks a little bit more antique and appealing to me personally, but some people may disagree, and that's totally fine. The tsuba itself, the handguard I started talking about, it probably is made from mild steel and lacquered in black. Maybe it's made with iron. Usually, with some iron tsuba, you can kind of give it a knack and it will start ringing very melodically. And then you know for sure that it's iron, but this one's hard to tell. Whether it's iron or a black lacquered mild steel is not going to make any difference. Steel is strong, okay? The lacquer might chip off, but usually the steels used are not the ones that are easily oxidized. And that you're not even supposed to use tsuba. I mean, um, if you're using tsuba, if you fight with the sword, with katana in a hypothetical situation, you're doing something wrong. You're not experienced well enough. Then the saya, I put a few dents on it over the months I've been having it. So I used some black nail polish um, in various places. You cannot tell, but that's kind of my way of fixing cheap saya. And the saya made in China, they're not the same as saya made in Japan. The Japanese saya are the lacquer that they use, the natural derived lacquer, is much stronger. They apply multiple layers over time. So even though sai is not supposed to be reinforced at the end with the metal kojiri, like the earlier cavalry sabers used to have, it was still quite strong. And the reason why it's not heavily reinforced, well, its weight, comfort, and the use case. If a samurai or bushi, just a general term for a warrior from Japan, would go into the battle. They may have a different saya that is reinforced, or they might be using a chi than a horseback. Uh, the civilians, uh, well, the samurai that are not actively engaged in combat would wear the sword as a part of their status, along with the shorter sword wakizashi, and having just the lighter saya was more comfortable. And if it's nice and slidey or smooth, that you could easily put into your belt, obi, um, it just makes some things a bit easier. And then one Sensei Seki from a different channel told the audience that Saya is supposed to break in half if the correct pressure or kinetic energy is applied to it, which saves a fraction of a second for the wielder of the sword to unleash the sword, because now you don't really have the Saya on the blade anymore. You don't have to um, pull it out. So I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what I heard, and it sounds pretty logical to me. Um, this the Saya still holds the blade fairly well. It still locks in with the blade, and it would not the sword would not basically fall off if I would turn it upside down. So, which is kind of cool because I've been practicing Yaido, and usually the first thing that happens is that the Saya stops locking in the sword. I just need to practice more. They do advertise using horn for the opening to the Saya, and also this part that gets glued into the wood that holds the Segeo. The Segeo is actually nice. It's synthetic, but it's good, strong, um, pleasant to feel type of Segeo. And so far, nothing has fallen apart. I didn't have to glue it back on, which is a good sign. Um, I like Ronin Katana because the um, blade collar that they use, um, it's in brass, but it's kind of beefy, and the blade is well positioned inside on both sides. It fits it well. It's fitted well. Uh, it has that strong, good feel to it. Lots of cheap Chinese replicas. Sometimes you have the blade is off to the left, off to the right, cuts through the collar, or the back is not flush. And I mean, I've seen all sorts of issues. Ronin Katana is usually um, doing much better job with that. And the my favorite part about this particular sword is the way that they balanced it. Yes, it's a long sword, it's long katana, but it feels good in your hands. It feels lively, not lively like light Circassian Shashko, of course, which is a single-handed saber, but for a dual-handed long sword, quite hefty, really in looks, it feels alive, and I really like that aspect. And also, I will not show you the tip because I have a bunch of sleeping cats around here. I don't want to hurt anybody by accident. But the tip is reinforced, so basically there's a distal taper, but the last inch or so where the tip is sharp, it has that thickening to it, which is awesome for a replica, because sometimes cheap replicas don't feature that, but it's a standard feature on historical katana. It helps to have the tip strong enough for strong thrusts, such as through armor. Um, Also, the grooves, I keep forgetting Japanese terminology for them. The bohi are done well. They're symmetric. They look good. They're quite deep, but not too deep. They certainly help with the weight a little tiny bit. I also have a different Ronin Katana longsword with a different Tsuba. I mean, yes, I can notice a bit of a difference in weight. It's not huge, but there is that difference. And even few grams for a swordsman who is used to swords could feel different in their hands. Um, so I do like having the bohi on O-Katana. And I do like the shape of the handle that's not too thick. It's a bit of an hourglass shape, and I'd rather have panels of cheap gray skin, but have a nice, comfortable handle in a hourglass or eco shape than have an X handle. Because sometimes if you go with the custom katana, even for some of the more famous forges, and you pay extra for the full wrap of Semigawa to make it a bit more historically realistic, more unique, more special, somebody would make the wooden cores. Nobody would pass them the message that, hey, we're going to wrap it in Semigawa fully. So when they get back the wooden cores for the sword in question, and then they wrap it in Semigawa and then wrap it in silk, and then it looks bloated, it looks too fat. Katana handle is supposed to be not thin, but it's supposed to be not be like a hatchet handle. You do not hack with katana. You slice, you cut. Axe is a different story. Of course, you can hack with katana, but you're wasting your energy. Uh, you could do way more damage with less calories using the katana as intended with the circular slicing motion, um, and the way that somebody would hold the sword. It's never very tight grip. Sometimes it is, but it's very kind of organic, a bit loose. You tighten it up, for example, when the blade is about to reach the ground, finishing its arc, because you don't want the blade to hit the ground. So sometimes you do hold it stronger than not, but you're supposed to have kind of a relaxed grip normally. It makes it more agile in the hands. Um, it does have simple fittings. There's nothing too exciting about them, but the fact that it's very sharp, I've cut pool noodles with it quite a bit, and the way I cut my pool noodles may be different from how other people do it. I basically do like a very low tech. I hammer um, piece of wood into the ground, and I have a couple of inches above the surface, and on that I put the pool noodle. So it sits on something, and it doesn't wobble normally, not unless it's a very strong wind. But if you push on it, it will fall down. Because if you're practicing good cutting techniques and a good circular motion, the pool noodle is best when it's barely even attached to the ground. Because if you do the right circular motion, the good slicing with the katana, the pool noodle could barely stand on the ground, but then you get the nice clean cut. If you attach the pool noodle to the ground too hard, it may not demonstrate your skill. You will cut it, but you will more like hack it off into pieces more than slice it through. If you're interested in how to handle katana and interested about Iaido and Kenjutsu and martial arts from Japan, such as Kabudo, the old martial arts that uh, basically teach people how to use all sorts of weapons but edged weapons like swords. I suggest to look into um, the mountain teachings with Roger Verhan. The last name sounds German and it's kind of hard to spell, but if you search by mountain teachings Roger, you will find um, the resource. Roger is an amazing, he's a living legend. There is just no other way to put it. I don't think there is a more experienced Yaidoka or a Kenjutsu master or Gabudo master or even a karate master who is all of those things and is in his 80s and kicking it like high kicks style. And the way he pulls the sword out is, you just don't see it. It really is flashing steel. I mean, he's an amazing in the way that he teaches, in his person, his personality, and the knowledge that he has, and also he has his lessons on DVDs. and some of them don't have the best quality, but it's definitely plenty to learn more about Japanese swordsmanship. Um, the oiliness of the handle, I can wrap it in paper towel a couple of times. It will go away. I usually wear gloves anyway, and they leather gloves. They have kind of a matte finish, and they do kind of drink excess oil too. It's not that my hand slides easily on it. It's just my hand is slightly a bit oily, and it's fine because the wooden core is also could be a bit too dry, and you want some of that oil to get to the wooden core. Um, it will protect it from humidity changes, less likely to crack. It will be able to absorb more of a kinetic impact before breaking. Um, and this sword does have two hard bamboo pegs, mikugi pegs, that hold the sword within the cores wrapped in the silk. The standard way of making katana tsuka or handles is using just one bamboo peg, and I have a hypothesis about it. I think with the one bamboo peg, it's kind of everything pivots on that one peg, and it's more likely to absorb kinetic impact without breaking. When you have two Mikuki pegs, like on paper, it seems like, yeah, it's a stronger way to make the handle, but then when you put specific type of pressure on the handle, it doesn't pivot in a single peg. Now there are two pegs, and it might break somewhere because it doesn't quite distribute the kinetic energy as well as it could. And that's one of the things I love about katana design. It's so very well designed sword. It's meant to absorb energy. It's meant to be a heavy saber, or sometimes lighter, depending on the scenario. But let's say late Sengoku Jidai era, when the the hundreds of years of civil war were ravaging Japan, the samurai had armor, and these swords were meant to withstand armor. Uh, Especially heavy swords, so heavy, thicker geometries were used during Mongolian invasion, because Mongols were famous for their armor, boiled leather, laminated um, pieces of leather or metal or chainmail or all of the above. A light katana were not so great with heavy Mongol armor. So after some time, there were a couple of geometries like Ivoshopu, Dotanuki, that were used more in direct confrontation with the Mongols. But as we know, the invasion of Mongols didn't last for a very long time, and the weather kind of helped the Japanese to get rid of the Mongols. They lost their fleet in the heavy holy wind, the tsunami that was very famous and well documented. Um, so I guess I will wrap this up. It's a good sword for its price. I've seen worse. I've felt of worse uh, from different other forges. There's nothing wrong that the Ronin Katana just settles down on the list of the designs and makes the same designs over and over again. Sometimes custom swords are overrated if they're not made well. You can put all these fittings on it and make it look like I don't know, Christmas tree, but it's gonna be a really crappy sword. With Ronin Katana, I know for a fact that they done the research on the blade geometry. They've done the research on the construction of the sword, of how to make it mass marketable, and I guess made in a facility that mass produces swords but still maintains some kind of quality level. I have a couple of dent and scratch swords from them and tanto from them as well, and they were in a quite decent condition for the dent and scratch type items, and all of them seemed that they were made fairly well. So for somebody who's looking for their first katana and doesn't quite know where to go, what design they would like, well, you're going to be on an adventure, my friend. You will feel that your first sword in your hands, you will fall in love with it, and you will continue your search until you find your perfect geometry, your perfect length, your perfect materials. But until then, for a sample of what katana can be or used to be, um, Ronin Katana is not a bad place to get your sword from. And the steel it's made from, on paper it's quite simple. In the 21st century, it's 1060, which basically means it's almost pure carbon steel with about 0.6% of carbon in it. But the heat treatment is good. It has a spring temper to it, and it has quite a bit of a high HRC for the edge. I cannot tell you the exact number, but it doesn't dull easily. So they use kind of a simple steel, but they know how to heat treat it well, or at least they source well heat treated steel. Sometimes you can, just recently, Shadow Dancer were marketing S5 steel swords for like 700 and more dollars, which was supposedly made from super steel. Another company, Cloud Hammer, was marketing S5 steel swords, and everybody in the sword community was like, wow, super steel, S5, 10 times more impact resistant than the T10, the tungsten alloy high carbon steel. Of course, I want to have one. There were pre-orders and rumors, and well, as we found out, uh, at least I cannot speak on behalf of the on Cloud Hammer, but the Shadow Dancer used something more like 1080, at least in some cases. You never really know. I have a S5 sword from them, well, not really S5, it used to be S5, which I bought with my own money, but they have refunded me. Good for them, fair, because that was the only reason I bought it. It's because of the steel, but it's kind of a mystery steel sword. I don't know if the spine is soft or if the spine is too rigid. I don't know if the blade has been tempered stronger than the spine to be tougher and hold the edge better, because the spine of katana is historically supposed to be softer to absorb impact, to add some fluidity to the blade, to make it more impact resistant, and also to be able to block other swords or weapons using the back of the sword. So with the S5 Shadow Dancer, I have no idea what steel it's made from, but it's a pretty sword. It's a well put together sword. I'll give them that. With the Ronin Katana, it's not a perfectly well put sword, because I mean, yes, my kashira was getting loose. I had to use the textile glue here, but that's gonna happen with almost any budget katana. Even katana around $1,000. There are some controversial brands out there that, like Taitsuki, probably mispronounce it, make really pretty swords with silver fittings, and they cost a lot, but then they fall apart after a few dojo practices. You have to fix tsuka again with something like super glue or pay somebody to rewrap it. So just set the expectations realistically, and also it's a good thing to know how to repair your sword. It gives you more connection with the blade. It's not about how expensive the sword is, it's not about where it was made and by whom. It's about the meaning you put into it, and it's about your personal relationship with this object. You can have a cheap Chinese replica and believe that there is a soul of a samurai living within the blade, and it's subjective. There may or there may be not. There's just no way to find out for sure. But if you feel special about your sword and take care of it, it doesn't need to be an expensive sword. And I would even say that start with the cheap swords and take care of them well, and value them for what they are, not as cheap swords, but as swords, as an extension of your body. And the tsuka, the grip, is kind of the interface you have connecting you to the blade. Some people say that tsuka is not so important, you can just buy a new one. Well, yes, you can buy a new one, but it's not going to be perfectly fitted to your sword, and you will have to either do it yourself or find somebody else to do it for you. Um, Poor tsuka just spoils the entire package completely. I have a Cloud Hammer sword made from Japanese spring steel and differentially hardened, And I mean the tsuku it came with. Uh, I'm not gonna go into too many details there, but it really cheapened the feel of the sword. Of course, I fixed it in more than one way and made it better, but the handle is, or the tsuku is the interface you have with the blade, and it's important. There's something almost mystical about it, the way it connects you with the blade, with the steel, regardless whether it's mass-produced steel or not. I guess you can be a bit of a romantic, a bit of an abstractionist, or you don't have to be. You know, it really just depends on who you are and what you want out of a thing and how you want to relate to it. But in case you do want to treasure your first katana, even if it's a cheap one, you have all the rights to do so. Alright, so that was actually my first take, and I'm just going to keep it like that. I never use AI to add any effects or to modify a video or do anything crazy. I kind of believe in the old technology, even if it's low tech. And thank you for coming to my channel. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions at all about swords, or katana, or shashka, or jin specifically, those are my three favorite ones, the ones I own the most of and most experienced with. I'm always happy to speak about steels and swords and heat treatment and recommend you books about certain types of swords that you like. I have a whole library of books on katana, from how it's made traditionally to different types of geometries and how tsukamaki is made. So there are lots of really cool books out there in English about katana swords, and of course there are way more in Japanese. But a lot of good books have been translated over the ages. Look for the used copies. They're usually like 20 or 30% of the price of a brand new book. And most of the time, the used books I got from, let's say, the A store were in quite a good condition. And some of those uh, colored books about katana could be very expensive brand new. So it's one of the ways you could save up a little bit. But those books are a treasure. Um, there's something about paper and the tactile sensation a person may have with reading a real book, not looking at pictures online. It feels more profound. Maybe I'm just a 20th century person, and I guess that's okay too. There's no wrong way as far as you don't hurt anybody and spread the cheer and kind to others, kind to yourself, and there is no bad way if you do it that way, regardless of your religion or philosophical alignment, political party. So that's kind of what I promote: peacefulness, love, belonging, and the love of swords, and lots of other things such as history. All right, I'm gonna try to stop this, and you guys have a wonderful day. Take care.